So you guys have been asking me to do a character analysis of Aussie and Mildred, and here it is. So get your notebooks, have a seat, get some popcorn because we're going to get into it. So I'm Denise Brady, and I'm a therapist who just loves mental health and pop culture. So let's get straight into it. Now, when I see Mildred and Aussie get together in this pretrial marriage, to me, the foundation of their relationship was really built on two people who are trying to navigate having complex trauma. And both people have not worked through the complex trauma that they've been through, that now you're building a relationship, a bond of sorts on the sand, okay? Now, when you build a sandcastle, what happens over time is going to fall apart. And a lot of people that I see in my practice are in relationships where either one person has complex PTSD or both people. So when it comes to Aussie in particular, you see that Aussie has been able to cope through life through control, okay? And a lot of people who have been through a lot of trauma think that the key to controlling our thriving in life is through control. And so you see when Aussie does not have control, there's a backpack somewhere ready to be put on and walked out that door. And so there's a lot of just repressed trauma that Aussie has not dealt with. And I want you to know, to me, Aussie is also a prime example that it is never too late to go to therapy. To be in your 40s and still having this trauma show up in your life just shows how some of y'all are in your big age, you're in your 40s, 60, whatever. It's never too late to go to therapy, because do you want to become like Aussie? Do you want to be a person in a relationship where their trauma just really controls them? Do you? Okay. And so another thing I was curious about is Aussie a first generation child of immigrant parents? I wonder what aspect does that have to do with how Aussie sees himself in the world, how in the perspective of Aussie's parents that Aussie has not come out to them. Is that a role? Does that play, the fact that they don't know about my relationship with Sam? Okay. There is still a lot of Aussie that is not really living life. Aussie is living through life through trauma. The trauma is really the glasses. A lot of people have these traumatic experiences, this traumatic narrative that they're walking around through life with these trauma goggles on. And they don't realize that I'm not in control of my life, my trauma is. And so when you see Aussie in a relationship with Mildred, you see how Mildred themselves also has repressed trauma, and how both these people and their trauma just make them butt heads. I think Mildred's trauma is more reactive. I think they're both reactive, but Mildred, you could see, she just tends to ruminate over things. And so let's focus on that scene of them in the kitchen arguing. And so for me, it was very interesting how when Aussie became triggered by Mildred, Aussie left, but Mildred was still stuck in that moment. Did y'all notice that even when Aussie left, Mildred was still like, okay, I'm like, Aussie's gone. Why are you still focused on trying to dig the hole that Aussie is a bad person? It's because Mildred, once again, has very black and white thinking, either or. There's no gray area. And it's really hard to be in a relationship with someone who does not have that gray area. Everything is black and white. You either love me or you don't. You like me or you don't. You're going to do things my way or you're not. Okay. And you see how Mildred is reliving, to me, the way Mildred was probably treated by her father. I think they talk about that a little bit. She has a lot of abandonment things that she has not worked through. So just how at times she may have felt thrown away, pushed aside, not valued, she does the same thing in her relationship with Tiffany. And she does the same thing with her relationship with Aussie. She tends to bully, okay? My way or no way. And she has not learned how to self-soothe and really like, okay, let me take a moment to self-reflect and figure out what is the best way to handle this situation. Instead, she just reacts. And you see how it becomes more and more triggering for Aussie that Aussie leaves. Now, Aussie is not a victim, okay? I'm not going to sit here and say that Aussie did not contribute to the different situations that Aussie was in. There was some manipulation. I think at times there were like gaslighting. I think sometimes people's mental health becomes a way for them to hide behind their true behaviors because, oh, it must be my anxiety. Oh, it must be my depression. But it comes a point in time where you have to realize you have mental health issues. But as an adult, I have to do something about that. I cannot live my life saying it's because of my depression, because then it becomes an excuse. As a child, you might not know the depths of what is really going on with you. And you can say like you don't know, but as an adult, you can't do that. You have to make a conscious decision to work through the trauma that you have been through. And as a therapist working with these two people, a couples therapist, I would have probably took them aside and talked to them individually and see where they're coming from. And then figured out if it's best for both their mental health to stay in this experiment, one, let alone live together. But what is going to happen once these cameras go off? What is going to happen once the show is over? It is not good for either one of them to be in a relationship, even if it's a pretend relationship. It's just not good. And so I think both of these people need a lot of therapy. And I think Mildred really has to free that inner child, not through anger, not through gaslighting people, not through manipulation. She needs to free and heal from those wounds. Grieve the relationship she hasn't had with her mother, father. Grieve what is missing. Okay, I think a lot of people need to grieve the relationships that they wish that they had with those parents, caregivers, whoever it is, because that stuff is very much active in your mind. Okay, I think both of these people can really benefit from some EMDR therapy. Let me know if you want to learn more about EMDR therapy, because I do EMDR. A lot of it is done for me working with clients who have complex PTSD. So I think both of these people can benefit from some EMDR therapy, some self-reflection. I want to know from Mildred, I would go deep. I think everything starts with childhood. So I want to go back into the beginning. What was your relationship like with your mother, your father? How have you been seeing yourself in the world? What was poured into you as a child that now you reflect that back, that anger, that I'm not good enough, that I have to be dominant? What is the core belief that was poured into you? Because that core belief really is just hindering you from being who you really want to be. And for Aussie, I would also go back to the beginning. What is it about that dynamic between you and your parents that still today you cannot show up in their lives the way you need to be seen? That you're showing up the way they, and some of y'all can relate to this, showing up the way other people need you to be. So I want to know from the beginning. We're going to start at the core. And a lot of therapists do not start at those core issues from the beginning. They're so focused on the now that you can't fix the now without going back to the beginning. So let me know, have you ever had a therapist who was so focused on the now that you really felt like you were in therapy and you weren't getting anywhere? Because this might be why. Okay, let me know your thoughts. Do you think that someone should have intervened and never let Mildred and Aussie get together? Now, it is a reality show, so they're here for the drama. They're here for the coins. But I think these two people have a lot of complex PTSD that is hindering them from really being who they really need to be. It's holding them back. So let me know your thoughts on this video. Leave me a comment and I'll get back to you. See you next time.